I have great respect for Angela, and I have great respect for the country. My father is German, right? Was German, and born in a very wonderful place in Germany. So I have a great feeling for Germany. There are moments in the history of television that hit you like a cold hand on the back of your neck. Moments where the studio lights seem to pull inward, where the audience forgets how to breathe, and where a single sheet of paper sitting on a wooden desk becomes more powerful than any speech ever delivered from any podium in any arena in the country. What happened on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was exactly one of those moments. And if you missed it, you need to stop everything and pay attention, because this one matters. Even before the first word was spoken, something in the room felt different. The usual rhythm of the show, the bouncing energy, the quick-fire jokes, the warm-up laughter rolling through the seats, all of it had shifted. The audience could feel it the way animals feel a storm coming before the first cloud appears. The familiar applause signs seemed to hang in the air a beat too long, as though the room itself was holding back, waiting for permission to react. Everything felt unusually still for a space that is normally buzzing with noise and motion and light. Stephen Colbert walked out onto that familiar stage the way he always does. Confident stride, composed shoulders, that slight glint of mischief in his eyes that his audience has come to recognize over years of watching him work. But tonight, something was off. There was no broad grin sweeping across his face, no playful wave to the crowd, no wink at the camera. He carried a single sheet of paper in his right hand, just one. He crossed the stage, reached his desk, and set it down quietly, almost gently, the way you set down something fragile, something that matters more than its size suggests. The cameras moved in close, tight on his face. Tight on the paper. The audience sensed it immediately, the way a theater full of people can sense a shift in tone before a single line of dialogue has been delivered. This was not going to be a typical monologue. This was not going to be a night of quick jabs and headline jokes. Something heavier was coming. To understand why that piece of paper mattered so much, you need to go back to earlier that same day. President Donald Trump stood before cameras alongside German Chancellor Angela Merkel, one of the most powerful leaders in Europe, and stated with complete, unwavering confidence that his father was born in Germany, not as a stumble, not as a slip of the tongue that corrected itself mid-sentence. He said it clearly, firmly, with the conviction of a man stating something he had always known to be true. My father is German, was German, and born in a very wonderful place in Germany. It's true. Frederick Trump was born in a very wonderful place in Germany, New York City, in 1905. My father was born in a wonderful part of Germany, very, very West Germany, and I'll never forget his favorite German saying, "Ich bin ein forget about it." But the historical record, the quiet, stubborn, immovable historical record, has always said something entirely different. Fred Trump was born in the Bronx, New York, on October 11th, 1905. This is not a matter of debate. It is not a question that historians argue about in academic journals. It appears in birth records. It appears in public archives. It appears in official government documents that have existed unchanged, unchallenged, for more than a century. The ink dried over 100 years ago and has not moved since. So when Colbert looked down at that single sheet of paper on his desk and said to his audience, his voice calm, his eyes steady, that the President of the United States told the Chancellor of Germany today that his father was born in Germany, the room went completely still. Not quiet. Still. The difference matters. Quiet is the absence of sound. Still is the absence of movement. Every person in that studio froze in place. Then he read it aloud, slowly, clearly. Each word placed with the kind of care you use when you know the sentence does not need volume to be devastating. Bronx, New York, October 11th, 1905. There was no laughter, no applause, no reaction at all, just silence. The deep, pressing kind of silence that tells you every person in the room is paying very close attention. The kind of silence that has weight, that you can feel settling on your shoulders like a heavy coat. But Colbert was not finished. He was not even close. He reached into his desk and pulled out more documents. Not one, not two, a stack. Interviews from 2018, clips from 2019, recorded exchanges from 2020, 4 separate moments spread across multiple years where journalists had gently, clearly, directly corrected the exact same claim. 4 separate occasions where the truth had been presented on camera, acknowledged in the moment, and then, the next time the subject came up, the same incorrect statement reappeared. Unchanged, uncorrected, as if none of those conversations had ever taken place. This was not confusion. This was not a man struggling to remember a detail from long ago. This was repetition. Consistent, patterned, deliberate repetition of a claim that had been corrected publicly, on the record, multiple times. Then came the moment that shifted the gravity of everything in that room. Colbert reached beneath the desk one more time. He pulled out another document, older than the others, dated 1869. Yellowed and fragile in its plastic sleeve. This one did not belong to Fred Trump. It belonged to Donald Trump's grandfather, Friedrich Trump, who was, in fact, born in Germany, in a small village called Colbert. That part of the story was real. The German connection existed. It was documented. It was historical fact. Colbert held both documents side by side, one in each hand, lifting them toward the camera so every viewer at home could see them clearly. 2 names, 2 dates, 2 birthplaces, 1 German, 1 American. He let the image sit there for a long, uncomfortable moment without saying a word. Just 2 pieces of paper held in the air, telling a story that words would only have cluttered. Then he explained it simply. This, he said, gesturing to the older document, is where the German story actually comes from. 1 generation back, the distinction mattered, and every person in that studio understood it instantly. Confusing a grandfather with a father, not once, not in a passing moment of distraction, but repeatedly, across years of public life, in front of cameras and journalists and world leaders, is not a small detail. It is not a harmless mix-up that anyone could make. It is a pattern. A reshaping of a simple, verifiable fact until it fits a version of reality that sounds better, feels grander, carries more weight than the plain truth. Colbert paused there. He let the realization settle across the room like fog rolling over a field. Slow, heavy, impossible to push away. Then he reminded the audience of something else, something that made the gap between claim and reality feel even wider. This is a man who has repeatedly, publicly, proudly claimed to have a perfect memory. A man who has pointed to his education, his test scores, his cognitive evaluations as proof of sharp thinking and total recall. A man who has told the world, again and again, that his mind is a precision instrument, sharper than the experts, faster than the advisors, better than anyone in the room. And yet, this same man continues to repeat a claim about his own father's birthplace that is directly, plainly, undeniably contradicted by the simplest public record available. A birth certificate, a single piece of paper with a name, a date, and a city printed on it in ink that has not changed in over a century. Colbert did not raise his voice. He did not lean into comedy. He did not perform outrage or reach for dramatic effect. He spoke plainly, evenly, the way someone speaks when they understand that the facts they are holding do not need any help from volume or emotion. They are strong enough on their own. At the end of the segment, he picked up the birth certificate one final time. He held it toward the camera with both hands, steady, deliberate. And he read it again, one last time, as if placing a period at the end of a sentence that the whole country needed to hear. Bronx, New York, October 11th, 1905. Then he set it down, slowly, gently, the way you place the final piece of evidence on a table when the case has already been made, and nothing more needs to be said. No applause followed. None was necessary, because in that moment, that single piece of paper had accomplished something that years of corrections, years of conversations, years of journalists carefully pointing out the discrepancy had failed to do. It had made the truth impossible to look past, impossible to spin, impossible to bury under louder words or bigger claims or shinier distractions. Facts are patient. They do not shift when the wind changes. They do not fade when someone stops looking at them. They do not adjust themselves to match what anyone wishes were true. A birth record from 1905 remains exactly what it is. Today, tomorrow, 100 years from now, no matter how many times a different version of the story is repeated, no matter how confidently, no matter how loudly, no matter how many cameras are rolling when the incorrect version is spoken, and sometimes, on an otherwise ordinary night in an otherwise ordinary late-night television studio, all it takes is one quiet piece of paper held up under bright lights by steady hands to remind the entire country of something they already knew but had somehow allowed to slip beneath the noise. Bronx, New York, October 11th, 1905. Simple, clear, permanent, and absolutely, completely, unalterably true.